What? Well, we'll see how that goes, yeah. 'Cause yeah, so we can say that. Good evening and welcome. Good evening. I'd like to call this evening to order. It's 7 o'clock right on the nose. It's Wednesday, January 20th, and this is a regular meeting of council for the District of Sechelt. And at the call of order, we also always remind councillors of any potential conflict of interest that they should declare if they do have a conflict of interest on any of the material we're dealing with tonight, or if there's an apprehension of bias or other potential interference with a free and open vote. So please, councillors, as you go through the material, if there's anything that you need to draw attention to or exit, do as appropriate. And now the meeting is to order, but before we move to adopt the agenda, I'd like to introduce our new Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. Tim Palmer. It's his first meeting, and if maybe stand so the people in the back can see you. So, okay. Mr. Palmer started with us at 8:30 on Monday morning. It's 7 o'clock Wednesday. He's still here. That's largely because we've kept him so busy. I'm a little worried about the weekend when he has some free time. But he's learning of the challenges and opportunities, and thus far he's been happy to be here. So you'll all get to know him well over the next months and years, and we're looking forward to a great relationship with you. Adoption of the agenda. I'd like to make one amendment to the order of the agenda. Under business items, we have the public hearing report for rezoning 10.3, and I'd like to move that up to the section 8 when we look at the bylaw itself. So I'd like to have the report on the public hearing come before we actually look at second and third reading of the bylaw. So we'll move 10.3 up to become under section 8. It'll be the first item under section 8. Any other amendments or deletions to the agenda? Any from staff? Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Shanks and Councillor Inkster. Thank you. All those in favour? And moving then to item 3, which is the appointments and delegations. We have one delegation this evening, Mr. Bob Hoy. Almost didn't recognize you because you didn't come with any signage. There's no IGA logos. But thank you for being here. And when you're ready, you can press that button, and then I'll give it a second hit, and it'll stay on. Oh. Okay. No, just
is that
leave
better?
it alone. Leave it alone.
Is that good?
That's good.
Excellent.
Thanks. And usually about 10 minutes, but whatever you do.
Yeah, I don't have too much. I think you have it before you that we're going to be, well, hopefully making a signage change. Basically, IGA across, actually around the world is doing a rebrand. Since 1926, all the independents, basically in the United States, as far as grocery stores, got together and they created the Independent Grocers Alliance. And since then, Tong Louis or Hokyat Louis in British Columbia. He joined the Grocers Alliance in 1956. Since then, there was lots, it evolved. IGA went to IGA Plus, which came to the Wilson Creek, Sechelt, and Gibson's location in 1991. Then we evolved into Marketplace IGA. And since then, Brant Louis, who has had the company for quite some time, involved his sons, and they discussed where the company was going. And one of the directions they wanted to go was back to their roots, what their great-grandfather did. So around the world, there's over 5,000 IGA stores, and they're looking to rebrand everything back to the old logo, which is IGA. What does it mean for the community? Probably nothing. We will continue to serve to the best of our ability, and we will do that. What does it mean to me? Yeah, a lot of money in signage for the third time. But it is what it is. We are a franchise, and we have to do what our franchisor dictates. So I guess I'm here today to answer any questions about the signage. What I'm hoping is I will be able to basically put the same signage back up, stencil, sticker, whatever it is over top of the old marketplace signs. And hopefully you will allow me to do that. So if you have any questions, shoot.
Thanks. Anything Councillor wants to speak at this point, Councillor Inkster? Because we will come back to this later as a report.
Sure.
Bob, I just got a couple ideas before I ask you a question.
Yep.
What do you think of IGA is it, or IGA the real thing? What do you think of that? Okay. So what kind of real change is this? I mean, it's an expense. Is it just...
It's a massive expense. I'm
Yes.
not going to lie.
And it's a requirement.
It's a requirement. I have no choice. One single sign on the building will be $15,000, the big one up top. Am I jumping with joy? Probably not. I would rather I'm happy with where I'm at, but I don't have a choice. So,
Councillor Lutz?
You may not have a choice, but we do. And how would that affect you? If we chose to not allow that change, what happens?
oh, that would hurt. Because basically they're in the midst of changing advertising. They've already changed. They're changing websites. They're changing everything on the tills. I've already changed my buggies. I've already changed my baskets. I've already changed our uniforms. We've already changed our name tags. So we need to go with the brand, which is IGA. So it would actually hurt. Yeah.
And Councillor Mueller?
Thank you, Worship. I assume that you're familiar with the content of the report that's coming up on signage of the IGA.
I think, I saw it briefly, yeah.
So does the recommendations of that report fit your franchisee obligations?
It does, yeah. It does. Okay. I mean, if I had to go to your report, because I don't know that I'm going to stay the entire evening, there was probably a couple of things that jumped at me. One was in the report, they said they didn't want the signage on the buggy stalls, which I didn't really understand that, because basically on the buggy stalls now, it's white with the Marketplace IGA logo, and it's quite tattered and it looks kind of awful. And basically all we want to do is just put a stencil over top of that, exactly the same. But I guess if, the report for some reason said they didn't want that. I wasn't sure why. But the other part of the report, which I found very interesting, was above our doors, we have two very small signs, and it just says Marketplace IGA. I don't even notice it when I come in, frankly, but I just wanted those signs to go up as normal, and I believe in the report it stated they would really like them out of carved wood. I didn't really understand that, but probably, to be honest with you, if I had to have them made out of carved wood, I just wouldn't put them up, and I would just paint over it, because I don't feel I probably go to that expense or that kind of effort to do that, but everything else seemed fine. So,
anything else from councils? And for those of us who shop there on a regular basis, can you guarantee we won't get lost when we come in with the new signs?
You guaranteed you won't get lost.
Okay. Don't want to be disoriented or distracted.
No, it's just a sign on the outside. It's everything on the inside's already done.
Thank you very much. And with no further questions, we'll just move along here.
Thanks.
And get to it fairly quickly, I think. Item 4, there are no proclamations this evening. And item 5, adoption of minutes from previous council meetings. We'll start item 5.1, which is the minutes from a 5 o'clock special council meeting, simply to go into camera. Move to adopt. Councillor Lutz, Councillor Inkster, all those in favor? That's carried. And item 5.2, which is a similar meeting for the next day, minutes of the 4 p.m. regular council meeting of December 16th. The motion to adopt, Councillor Seegers and Councillor Mueller. All those in favor? That's carried. And item 5.3, a regular council meeting of item 7 o'clock regular council meeting, December 16th. Motion to receive and adopt, Councillor Wright, Councillor Lutz. Any errors or omissions in that? Councillor Wright, I saw first, and then can you want to move your microphone up?
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. Just on page 9, middle of the page, it's talking about Mr. Gilker explained that for many of his students, English is the second language, and then it says speakers after that, and the word speakers probably doesn't belong there. And in the next paragraph, second statement, it says faculty association to step outside and go directory, and it probably should be directly to municipal and district partners. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Seegers?
Sorry, on page 12, I just had a question about recommendation number 4 and the date in the heading there, whether or not that was correct.
I'll have to check that, Bishop. I'm not sure whether that's
Yeah.
correct or not. August 26th doesn't seem fit.
Okay, so we'll review that prior to authorizing. Any other errors or omissions or questions, Councillor Mueller? It was on, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Page 21. Top of the page, bring forth a domestic action plan aimed at meeting our commitments therein. THEREIN.
Okay. Top of page 14 was that? Okay. Any other errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor of adoption? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Any business arising from those minutes? Okay, and moving on to the...
Your Worship.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Mueller.
Thanks. I just wanted to follow up on the letter that we came out of the council reports.
I don't think it's been signed yet. No, it's been drafted, but it hasn't been signed.
Will it come back to finance, or is it
Do
coming
you
here?
want it to come back to council or to finance?
I think regular council would be better.
Okay, we'll do that. And I think we were waiting for, no, that was at council, so. Any other business arising from the December 16th minutes? If not, we move to the January 13th minutes of the 3 p.m. special council meeting. Motion to adopt. Thank you, Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz. All those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Moving then to business, and we've dealt with business arising from the minutes. So commission minutes and reports. Item 7.1 is a summary of recommendations of the Planning and Community Development Committee of December 16th. Motion to receive. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Shanks. Any questions arising or discussion in any of those recommendations you'd like to separate? Okay with them all? Good. So a motion to adopt recommendations 1 through to 19. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Lutz. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Quick work tonight. Item 7.2, summary of the recommendations of the Finance, Culture and Economic Development Committee of January 13th. First, a motion to receive. Councillor Shanks and Seegers. Any questions or clarifications of the minutes? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I ask that recommendation number 14 be dealt with separately?
Any other questions or clarifications of the minutes before we move to the recommendations? Seeing none and taking Councillor Wright's comment into account, I'll look for somebody to recommend recommendations 1 through 13 and recommendations 15 through 18. Councillor Lutz, Councillor Seegers, thank you. Any discussion of those? All those in favor? And that's carried. And a motion to adopt recommendation number 14. Won't be Councillor Wright, Councillor Lutz, Councillor Shanks. Discussion of recommendation number 14, which for those who don't have, oh, it's on the screen. And it's the recommendation regarding the post-completion review contract award that was awarded to Deloitte LLP on that. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. This particular recommendation comes out of the Auditor General's report, and I want to speak against this recommendation. I voted against it at the Finance Committee, and I'm going to be voting against it again this evening. What we know about the wastewater treatment plant is that it's not going to move. It's not going to be dismantled. We need to make it work, and we need to hook up as many properties as possible, and we need to pay for it. We also know that there's information regarding this particular project that is not available because some of us have asked for it. And at this point, we're going to spend $150,000 that I believe will yield very little information, more than what we already have. My suggestion is that we defeat this particular recommendation, and that when we get a new manager of engineering, we ask the manager of engineering and our new CAO to have a look at this particular construction project and do an internal review of it, rather than spend $150,000. I believe that we can spend $150,000 in a much wiser way than this. Some people are going to say yes, but we need to find out what went wrong so that we don't repeat it. My response to that is you're not likely going to build another $24 million plant in the term of this council, and probably not in the term of the next council either. So I don't think we need to know the information. There's lots of people in the construction industry that can tell us how to do that and what to watch for. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Wright. Any other comments from councillors as we consider this issue? Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. At committee, I indicated that I'm not happy spending the money either. And the Attorney General indicated that our community is asking us to do this review to ensure that they got value for money. And so it is a lot of money to spend, and I think our community deserves to have the answers to those questions. So I will support it. And I agree with Councillor Wright that it's a lot of money to spend.
Thank you. I'm seeing a few more hands now. Councillor Mueller, and then I think Councillor Inkster. We'll see how the microphones go. Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Worship. I'm prepared to speak in favor of the recommendation going forward, and that's because of, in terms of the percentage-wise, $150,000 review of a $24 million project to me seems good value. Additionally, there were so many questions in the community. We'd like to finally put those to rest. And I think more than anything, that is a good reason to spend that money. This is by far the biggest project we've ever undertaken, and really like to learn about it, not only for our staff, but for the community as well. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. I'll speak in favor of this. The Auditor General clearly identified this as something we need to do. This council made a commitment to meet a number of the requests made in the critiques made by the Auditor General. The community recognized that and put the trust in us to carry out some of that internal auditing and self-analysis. I'll be supporting it on that basis. We need to remember that it's I think it's a $25 to $26 million project. It's been, and it could, as Councillor Shanks goes, it could be when the final rendering is done, when the final accounting is done, it could be more than that. So to put this kind of money to look at that large of a project, look at the percentage of that, because it's just over 100,000 and it's 25 million, you could probably do the quick math on what kind of percentage that is in terms of the overall project analysis. I think what's key now, as opposed to when the Auditor General looked at it in the first place and was looking for information, is we have some new staff in place who will maybe be able to look harder at our documentation and our documents to find that information that will be required by the company that will be doing this research in order to make sure that future projects are done according to the accountability and expectations of our community and what they want to see in a project and how they want to see it carried forward. The discussion at the committee meeting also indicated from a number of council members that much like myself, because I talk about this lots that are concerned about financial accountability and our budgets, we did indicate to our finance staff that we be very careful that we ride herd on this particular project to make sure that the contingency is not utilized so that it sticks to a budget of between 100 and 125,000, not the 150 that's mentioned. So I think that's really important that we do that and that we get this analysis and that it comes back to us and that the community gets to see it. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments? Noted Councillor Inkster's comments about different staff who may be able to look more vigilantly for information that wasn't there, except of course for the triple deleted emails. Any further discussion? I think there's support for this going forward, so all those in favor? Any opposed? Will we record that? Okay, that's carried with one in opposition, and to note Councillor Wright. This is probably a good time to mention, and I'd forgotten it earlier, this morning it was announced at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time that District of Sechelt has been awarded an award of some sort from the federal FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities, on the wastewater facility, the water resource facility, and I'll be going out into Ottawa on February 9th or 10th to give a short speech and to accept the award and to tell the elected officials across Canada that this is a great innovative project. Don't try this at home. No, it's going to be an interesting award. The innovation and the technology is recognized and it's getting the results we want. The reason for the study and the reason councillors are supporting it is because of the number of unanswered questions about the process. If we can move then to item 8, and before we go to the bylaw itself, if we could introduce item 10.3, which is the public hearing report, and a report from Angela Lettman, the municipal planner. So first, a motion to receive. Thank you, Councillors Seegers and Lutz. All those in favor? And that's carried. And we'll move, if I can, to Ms. Lettman.
Connie, can you? Mayor and Council, I have a short presentation to give you to remind everyone about the background about the application. So it's a rezoning application for the property at 6211 Bailey Road. The property is located in the West Sechelt neighborhood, and you can see it located there on the star, close to Norwest Bay Road. The property is currently zoned. It's actually 2 properties were subsequently made after the rezoning application was made in 2013. The properties are zoned R3, and combined they are over 0.56 of a hectare in size. You can see them here and the surrounding lots. The surrounding lots, I have some of the numbers of the sizes here. This property, if I can pull up here. These 2 properties are approximately half an acre in here. These ones are 0.14 and 0.09. This property at the bottom is approximately 0.23 of a hectare, 0.186, and for those of you who grew up like I did in Imperial, 0.2 is half an acre. These properties here are 0.1 of a hectare, 0.1, so basically a quarter acre, and 0.09 in this location, and up on Sunrise, 0.09 to 0.10. 0.138 is this larger one here, 0.137, 0.10. Across the road, they are 0.09, which is the minimum size of the R3 zoning. These are the ones in this location here. So there's a range of properties, sizes. The West Sechelt neighborhood policies and the official community plans, particular residential policies, Support. These are specific policies to the special policies in West Sechelt, and I bring your attention to number 3. Properties larger than 0.4 hectares or 1 acre in size in the residential designation may be considered for more intensive residential use such as small lot housing, duplex, townhouse, cluster housing, and similar uses. Housing type, density, and appearance will be determined through the rezoning and development permit process to ensure that the use is complementary to adjacent residential areas. Just an aerial photograph here showing that the one house is at this location up here. That property actually has been in existence before the 2-lot subdivision. This property was in existence before Derby Road was created, before Bailey Road, before any of the subdivision development around it. On November 18th, Council moved that final adoption of the bylaw be conditional on a number of things being completed, including a servicing agreement for the Sunshine Coast Regional District, preliminary council approval for a development permit under DPA 8 intensive residential and infill housing to integrate the development into the existing neighborhood. A cash contribution of $1,500 towards the capital improvements at Walter Burtnick Park. A cash contribution to the District of Sechelt Affordable Housing Reserve in the amount of $30,000. A restrictive covenant placed on the property to ensure that the new homes are adaptable and accessible. And I won't go into the full description there. And that council approved the removal of a restrictive covenant that's on the title now of both properties to ensure that the servicing is completed. In terms of the development permit, intensive residential and infill housing, I have parts of the whole of the development permit area number 8, and they go into the objectives about site planning, building scale, form, and character. The small lot subdivisions also has a section. There's also a section on lighting, sustainability, parking and access, and servicing. So there's a lot of guidelines to go through and to be met prior to the final adoption of the zoning bylaw. So in terms of the number of lots will be determined at the time of the final subdivision application and through the development permit area guidelines and meeting those in the development permit area. So the 8-lot subdivision was given as an example of what can be done at the R1 zoning. We also have an R3 zoning study that shows that it can have 5 lots under our current R3 zoning. Staff accepted the application for the rezoning to R1 because of the strong indication from the official community plan guidelines that supported the application. And that's my presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure there'll be a couple of questions from councillors just to clarify the comments and the public hearing, but I'll start with Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Worship. At the public hearing that we had before Christmas, there was a number of concerns brought forward by neighbors in the area, immediate neighbors, and I'm just wondering, specifically, one issue was the trailer that's there. It seemed not to be in character of the neighborhood, and I'm just wondering what would happen with that if this zoning is approved or development permit is approved.
Although it's a separate issue at this time in terms of the application to rezone, I'm happy to report that the trailer and shipping container has been removed through the due diligence of our bylaw enforcement staff.
Any Councillor Wright?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. There was another concern about the number of lots that we were going to allow on this particular property. And did I hear you correctly and say that that was still on the table to be dealt with?
Yes, although there is an 8-lot kind of scenario that's been proposed, it's still under consideration and hasn't been approved. And of course, the development permit guidelines talk about site layout, landscaping, that kind of thing. So that layout will be coming forward with some more detail in terms of what will happen in there.
So we still have the opportunity to reduce the number of lots that will be on that site.
The zoning will allow a minimum of 500. There may be a range. The official community plan supports going to 400 meters squared, but the application is for the zone that permits a minimum of 500 meters squared.
Thank you.
So, and just to clarify those line of direction that Councillor Wright was asking for those of us that are either new or haven't been at the table for a while, once the zoning is in place, the subdivision approval doesn't come back to council.
That's correct.
Okay, so, and that was the question. So let's be very clear on this.
If I could expand, though,
okay.
if I may, Mayor and Council, the development permit area guidelines specifically talk about, if I go back in the PowerPoint's gone, talk about the site layout, and I'll just read that section. If I may, where is it now?
Well, yeah, let's see what order we do this in. Yeah.
Site planning. They talk about retraining existing mature vegetation. They talk about minimizing parcel consolidation in order to retain single-family appearance. They orientate infill housing to minimize overlooking of adjacent residential properties through building heights, careful placement of windows, and landscape screening. So the building form, which as well as the site planning of the subdivision, will be coming through as part of the development permit application.
Okay, thank you. Now, what I was thinking here, because we have the bylaw in front of us as well, is that we first clarify that we all understood the report from the planner, and then receive the public hearing minutes, and then recommendation 4, which is a servicing agreement, and recognize that recommendation 3 on the report leads directly into the bylaw, that we leave that to the last that we do, and then discuss whether we should give second or third readings. So just so we have a sense of how I want to proceed on this. Is there any other questions to the planner while we're discussing the report and the OCP opportunity that says we may consider rezoning? Yeah. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, just a couple of clarification points. Minimum lot size of 500 meter squares, that relates to what, an imperial? And what's the average lot size to be within the subdivision?
So minimum 500 meters squared is approximately 1/8 of an acre, so 1/8 size. 2,000 being half an acre, 4,000 being an acre.
Okay.
We have many lots of 500 meters squared up in the Cascade area, and the intent of the development permit area guidelines is to try to kind of improve the way the development will happen and make the houses not cookie cutter.
And so what's the average of these 8 lots?
I don't have it in front of me. They were just over 500, less than 550, I believe. Councillor
Inkster, I think, is next, and then Councillor Mueller, then Councillor Lutz. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that it was reminded that the information that we presented and that we are making our decisions to says may allow a certain number of lots. I will say that the subdivision that was referred to that's higher up in West Sechelt, that was clearly designated as that at the time, a number of smaller lots. It had its limits, geographic limits as to how that would go, and those that then moved there knew what they were buying into, and that's why they purchased the smaller homes, the smaller lots, more affordable situations at that point. This is a little bit different. This is a piece in the middle of a number of larger lots and a number of larger homes. So having said that, having reminded everyone that it says may be that, when it comes up for vote and now an indication of where I'm going, I will be supporting 6 lots. Thank you.
Councillor Mueller.
That's just a simple nuts and bolts question. Can you just remind council of the size of a house, square footage that would be allowed on a lot of this size?
The overall lot coverage is 35%, so that's roughly 1/3 of, say, 500 square meters. So, Linda,
175 square meters.
in finance, that's 1,500 to 150. 125 square meters would be roughly 1,300 square feet, 1,400 square feet.
So this would be larger, or could be. Yeah. Any other questions, nuts and bolts or otherwise? Councillor Lutz.
If it were to remain at the current zoning of 5, that's still single family?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, if we're ready to move to the next recommendation, which is that we receive the minutes of the public hearing, December 9th, 2015. Motion to Councillor Seegers and Councillor Inkster. All those in favor? That's carried. And I think it's important to have those minutes in front of us. I know we've had a chance to reflect them before, but just in terms of order, so that we do know what the comments were, and the comments are part of the record before we make this consideration. And we also have recommendation 4, which is staff recommendation of the servicing agreements and development agreements, covenants that might be placed on before it comes back for final adoption. Any discussion of that item? And can I look to somebody to move that? Councillor Seegers, Councillor Wright. All those in favor of those parts of this? Okay, that's carried. We have carried it, and I'm supportive. A question through to the planner. Do we have any idea of the cost, of the financial costs of the likely infrastructure servicing that's required? And the reason I'm asking that is because there's been some discussion when it was a 4-lot subdivision and when it was a 5-lot in terms of the not just the internal infrastructure, but the off-site servicing that made the number of lots a factor to consider.
I'll turn to the municipal manager of municipal engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Part of the servicing agreement, this particular subdivision need to improve Bay Road.
Bay Road?
All the way up to Derby Road.
Derby, okay.
The sidewalk, curb and gutter, and street lights. And also they propose a little cul-de-sac. Mm-hmm. And the storm and sentry is quite expensive. So it's around 400,000 off-site work.
Okay. And could you estimate how, I mean, they're putting in a cul-de-sac, that's entirely inside the property, I understand that. Could you give an estimate of what the 450 split would be? Like, would it be 200,000 on the outs, on Bay Road, Derby Road, or would it be more or less?
The cul-de-sac also part of the off-site work?
It is, okay.
It is not on-site work, it is a part of those off-site work.
Okay. So for an 8-lot subdivision, that would be about $50,000 a lot just before you get to that?
Yes.
Okay. And if there's no other, we have item 5, which is that once the servicing agreement works have been completed, that we would remove the restrictive covenant. Could I have somebody move that? Councillor Seegers and Councillor Shanks, all those in favor? That's carried. And the main item is the staff recommendation number 3, that we give second and third reading to zoning amendment bylaw to rezone this property from R3 residential 3 to single family R1. And I think we need to be clear, given the questions that arose from Councillor Wright and the suggestion by Councillor Inkster that he wanted to approve a specific number, that we don't actually have that ability. If we have an R3 zone, the maximum will be 5 lots. If we move to an R1 zone, then it could be whatever 500 square meters fits into that, which is conceivably just over 8, actually. It could be. Could it be more than 8?
The width of the lots sizes is 18 meters.
Okay.
So it's, I don't think you'd get more than 8.
Okay. So the rezoning is actually going to be determining the number. People need to realize that. And we were thinking of that because there was a number of people in the public hearing who were, almost all of them were supportive of development. Let's have 4 to 5ers. And people did mention 6 lots as an option. I don't think it's actually within our control. It's either R1 or R3. So the recommendation we're looking at now, if somebody could move it for discussion, is that council give second and third reading to zoning amendment bylaw. Sure. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. So there currently are 2 lots, both zoned R3, and if we were to leave them separate and not join them together, we'd actually have 6 lots up there. Is that correct? 5 in the one and 1 on the other?
No, it would be 4.
If they're 2 separate? No, if they're all together, then it's 5 maximum.
Oh,
if it's R3.
If it's left at R3, yes, the upper property I don't believe would have subdivision potential at all at this point. And then the lower property, we have to look at that, but it would probably be in the range of 4.
Okay, so it's all together that it would be 5.
The current zoning is R3, minimum lot size is 900 meters squared.
Okay, thank you.
And this particular property has been under various proposals over time. I think we've seen various versions of it, and most of them have been for the larger section, Lot B, at 4-lot subdivision, and there's various reasons why it hasn't gone forward. So we'd like something to go forward. That's part of it. Any further questions? Can I have somebody move the recommendation on second and third reading? We're still going to go to the bylaw, but we'd have somebody move that. Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz, and for discussion, the motion in front of us is that we give second and third reading. Any comments? No comments, so I'll just call the question. Okay, Councillor Mueller.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. On this particular one, I can see it's another one of those issues in this community where we're very close to the line on a number of different things. I understand the conundrum of the developer wishing to service the lots and the costs associated with that. At the same time, too, I understand the concerns of the residents in terms of how the character of their neighborhood will be affected by this. I think when we're approving developments, for me at least, the biggest concern is always to create good neighborhoods and good neighbors. And so for me, it falls on that. And the applicant has made one good step in terms of removing the trailer that was on there. That was one of the issues. Another one of the issues was number of lots. Very tough call. It's hard to say.
Thanks. And Councillor Inkster and Seegers, and then I'll call the question on this, and then we'll go to the bylaw, perhaps. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, thank you. It's unfortunate that in the definitions we can't go with what I would say is a compromise with 6 lots, and perhaps as it maybe Ms. Lettman has some suggestions and or what could be done in that situation. I looked through the comments. A number of them, and I've heard from people in a number of them, they keep talking about 6 lots. The removal of the trailer was a bylaw issue, so as was stated, that's separate. We're glad that it's not there. As I said earlier, and why I'm supporting less lots, and I'd like to see less lots, is this is what would be considered, because it's not raw land at the exterior of West Sechelt, a mature neighborhood. And in that mature neighborhood is a number of lots of larger size and a number of homes of larger size. The areas that we had previously designated as intensive housing and or smaller condensed housing, affordable housing in a sense, at that time is up higher in West Sechelt. So this is a little bit out of place, anachronistic in a sense. So once again, in speaking to that, I have to stick to less lots than has been designated here, and I hope they can come up with a solution. I'm hearing from the community that's what they'd like to see, the neighbors that will be most affected.
Thank you for that. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. At this point, just to be clear, we're just voting on that we will consider the zoning bylaw. We are not voting on the zoning bylaw. We're saying that as a council, we're going to consider it.
Well, it's a bit difficult because the wording of the motion is that council give second and third reading. So if we vote in favor of telling ourselves to give second and third reading to it, then we'll bring it forward for second reading.
But we can amend it at that point, can we not?
I think the choice will be defeat or amend. I don't know if we'll be able to amend a zoning. There's only the choice of zoning here. So
This would be the time to amend the motion to following a public hearing if they're to allow minor amendments based on the input of the community.
So if we're not prepared to pass the bylaw today, we should actually defeat this recommendation and suggest what we think would suit the needs. So Councillor Seeger still has
So
the floor.
just for clarity, and this will be through you to staff, the motion that we're voting on now is not actually the bylaw. So would it be the bylaw that we'd change, or is it this motion to consider the bylaw?
Do you want to speak to that?
I'll go to the corporate officer.
I think Jerry.
Yes, at this point, if you don't want to enact this particular bylaw, you should defeat this motion that says that you intend to enact the bylaw.
That's what I thought. Don't tell ourselves we want to do one thing and then change our minds 30 seconds later. Further discussion, Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I'm going to place an enormous amount of faith in our planning department in terms of them coming forward with a development permit. I say we're approving a preliminary approval of a development permit, which may come back to us indicating less than 8 lots.
Does the development permit come back to us?
Yes, it will. It'll also go to the West Sechelt Neighborhood Association for their comment and the Advisory Planning Commission.
So I have a question then.
Yep, Councillor Inkster. Can we turn down the development permit when it comes back to us if we don't approve of it?
You could certainly amend it. I think it's still your prerogative to work with the developer to find a solution. And the final zoning will not be given as it's a condition that there be
That's true.
preliminary approval of the development permit.
Thanks for pointing out that process, and thanks for Councillor Shanks for pointing out that we have to do everything in 4 before the final adoption. Councillor Inkster.
So, Ms. Letton, you're saying that if we pass it tonight, in hearing what a number of us have said, you will be going back with the developer to look for a solution that most likely is 6 or less?
Might be between 6 and 8. Or 5 and 8.
As I'm
Not 6 or less.
I can't promise that, but I can promise you that we'll certainly pass on the council's discussion points and set up a meeting soon with the developer to go over their development permit area guidelines and so try to work out a solution that works for everyone.
So it could come back then with more than 7 or 8, it could. And that could then mean, based on the discussion that's had tonight, that after all that effort and further time, that particular plan, extension of this one, is defeated because we've indicated, and majority of us, that it's too many lots. At least that's what I was hearing from council. I don't know. I don't know.
We don't have a majority indication, and there would be other considerations because by then we might actually know the costs involved and the reasons why various lots need to be in place. But there's one more opportunity for us to say that we like the development permit or not. That's what the key thing is. And so thank you for that. Thanks for the patience for those of us who are watching us do this. And thank you for staff for the patience. So the process is we have passed recommendation 4, which has a range of conditions, preconditions prior to final adoption. One of those is the development permit plan. And you've heard very clearly that a number of councillors are uncomfortable with what's proposed. Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, and just in earlier thoughts, and I think 1 or 2 conversations I had, that I would have preferred to see a little more dedication to parkland in the area. I don't know what 1,500 will do. I know the size of the subdivision, but just that's my feeling. So.
It's always a balance. If you're going to have affordable housing for $30,000, you might not have as much for parks. Seeing no other discussion, I'm going to recommend that we can, in fact, approve recommendation 3 that's in front of us to consider to give second and third reading to the zoning. All those in favor?
I'm sorry, say that again, would you mind?
I'm going to recommend, we're doing recommendation 3.
Yes, I realize that.
And having heard the discussion and the vote, I'm going to recommend that we actually support that recommendation. All those in, I think you've got them, it's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded.
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor?
Changing the zoning. Yeah.
Any opposed? Okay, that goes then to the bylaw itself. Item 8.1. Zoning amendment bylaw number 25259, 2015, Everbright Ventures Limited. It's been read a first time on November 18th. Public hearing was held on December 9th. And now I'd like a motion for second reading for this rezoning. Councillor Wright and Councillor, no, we'll have we'll get it on the floor first. And Councillor Seegers, thank you. And discussion and questions. Councillor Wright is first.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we need to change the date on the second reading. It's 2016.
It will be.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
It will be. Okay. Any other discussion at second reading? I'm recommending that this go forward with the absolute assurance that there's a majority of council that will defeat an 8-lot subdivision if it comes back. Just so that's clear. Any further discussion of the second reading? All those in favor? That's carried. Third reading moved by Councillor Lutz and seconded by Councillor Inkster. All those in favor of third reading? And that's carried. Thank you very much. A little bit of progress, and we'll see. And if you got confused and didn't follow all that, Basic Council was saying that they would approve a 6-lot development plan for that area. They would not approve anything approaching 8. The next item is the East Porpoise Bay Sewer Expansion Study, which is received for information, item 10.1, and it's being, it's for information, but it's brought forward by Mr. Bandera, our engineer. First, a motion to receive. Thank you. Any comments or questions at this time? Do you want to speak to it, Mr. Bandera? And then we'll have a couple of questions, I'm sure.
Just for information, and if any questions, I can answer for that.
Okay. I wanted to know a little bit about the history, and I wasn't sure why it was here tonight, like why I was seeing it, as opposed to committees or whatever. And I also wondered, I understand the first, and they did give us a pretty good background here, but the engineer was first retained with a consultant in 2011. That would be in early 2011 to do a study, and then changes were made to the direction of the wastewater management in the district, and the study was updated in December 2011 and then again, and now we see it in 2016. So can you tell me a little bit about that process and why it took so long was one thing, and what it was intended to do? Like why are we seeing it? Is that okay? It's fair.
Do you want me to answer it? Yeah. They already passed these.
This planning committee is most of the recommendation pass. I think recommendation number 13, page 4 of 6, actually page 29 of this agenda item.
We have page 39 through to page
29.
50.
29.
29.
We don't have that.
Yes, you have earlier tonight, you looked at the motions coming out of the planning committee.
Yep.
And on page 29, the motions were endorsed that give some rationale to why it's here.
Okay, thanks.
One of the motions of the committee was to bring back the report was to bring it forward into the public realm for receipt.
Thank you. That was the first thing I was looking for. So it has been to committee,
Yes.
which is great. That's where it should be and should start. Okay. So then, having been to committee, it's just being brought forward to council. Often reports that go to committee don't end up here. Like,
It was a specific request that the report also be attached into the council meeting so that that council members, all of council would have a chance to review the report.
good. And now that we have the report, I guess the question is, how will it be used?
I think that's. So the motions of the planning committee that were to be received by council. The next motion on page 29, that staff be directed to hold a public information meeting for the East Porpoise Bay neighborhood residents, property owners, and business owners within the study area to present the East Porpoise Bay sanitary sewer expansion study and to obtain community feedback. And that staff be directed, is the last motion, I believe, staff be directed to use and include the East Porpoise Bay sanitary sewer expansion study as information in the development of a new sewer DCC bylaw and expanded local service area bylaw for that area of the East Porpoise Bay neighborhood identified in the study.
Thank you. So the planning committee.
There's one more, sorry. The last one was about bringing the expansion study prepared by Parsons forward to the regular meeting of council. Thank you.
Good. So just in terms of process, the planning committee first and the council this evening has recommended that the next sewer area to be studied, DCC'd, and serviced is East Porpoise Bay. Did they know they were doing that? Is my question. And I guess the question has always been, what's the rationale for where sewers are placed and when they're not? So that's what I wanted to figure out tonight. Councillor Mueller?
If I may be able to comment on this, as well, the chair, we discussed this item, and if I recall, the rationale for that it was that this was to be the beginning point of an extrapolation for DCC. So this is a starting point for us to update our DCCs, from what I understood.
We absolutely need it for DCCs. The question in my mind is that for many years, the two areas that are being considered for expanded sewer are the north side of Selma Park, Havies Road, gravity fed down, and East Porpoise Bay. Those are the two areas. I'm just wondering what the order has been and why this particular area was at this stage and others are not.
Thank you. The reason is that East Porpoise Bay only subdivision, so that's the reason I extend the service area towards East Porpoise Bay. But the study contained not further beyond the provincial park, so that's why the district consider this is the catchment area because it's within our OCP bylaw. That's a catchment area.
Good. Okay, that's good. Councillor Seegers?
Yeah, I believe there was also some plans made in light of this with regards to that business development over there as well, so that they didn't put in sewer or septic fields, right? They put in holding tanks, I believe, in light of this being the next area to be provided with sewer.
Yes, part of the Sechelt Inlet Crescent, some of the property owners, they already have that holding tanks. They are waiting for the sewer connection for this area.
Yeah, thank you. I understand all of the issues on Sechelt Inlet Crescent and the demand of those businesses to hook up. I understand Ani Road. I understand everything up to Dusty Road, but I want to, and I thank you for your information tonight. That's useful, and we'll consider this. It's already here, and it'll be part of what we look at very closely in the next few weeks. Councillor Lutz.
And that would be my question too. Can we look at doing this in phases, possibly to Dusty Road, and then going to look at Selma Park after that for the work that has been talked about in that area?
Sorry.
Yes, it is possible to consider up to Dusty Road for this study as a study area.
And okay, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess this points out one of the difficulties that I continue to have is that we don't seem to have a priority list of things that we're going to do in this district, in this particular case, sewer hookup. And I was under the belief, I hear what Councillor Seeger said, and I've heard that in the community as well. But then I've heard that there are other communities who've been waiting for up to 20 years to be hooked up to sewer, and now we're going to go out in a different direction and hook up a bunch of other places, and we don't have that priority listing for sewer hookup. And I guess I would ask the administration that this question about a priority listing for paving of roads, for vehicle replacement, for sewer hookup, for everything, you're going to get asked this question and you're going to get asked this question until you do it. And I guess I would hope that the message gets through that I would like to have a priority listing so that when this kind of a report comes to council, I can say, well, okay, this follows the priority list. Or if it's out of priority, is there a reason why we're doing this one out of sequence? And sometimes there's good rationale for doing that. And it's a real, you leave council in a really awkward spot when we do this. Thank you.
Thank you, and Councillor Inkster, and then we'll probably, more. Councillor Inkster I saw first, and Councillor Shanks and Councillor Mueller.
Yeah, thank you. In reference to the priority question, I thought there was a priority list over the last number of years. West Sechelt areas that have not received hookup, especially those before Wakefield Road, are to receive hookups with smaller lines and less properties and a large long pipe going to a number of contributing lines with then properties coming off of them like a tree. So I thought that's what the priority was in reference to the previous question. I also thought then the second priority after that, and that, by the way, should include the West Sechelt. I include West Porpoise Bay in that, some areas that aren't hooked up. That's part of that previous priority list that was asked about. And then the next numbers that has some topographical challenges, however, there are some low-lying properties in there, was supposed to be Selma Park and then into Davis Bay. So a gravity-fed line and perhaps a study that represented some figures on a pump up to a gravity-fed line to come into town. So I thought that was the priority and in answering that question. So we need to look at, because we built this plant that we've spent a lot of money on and that we've won an award on, we need to move towards connecting our community, but having people jump line and butt into the line is problematic to me. I was going to ask, though, Sanath, at the end of this, is if the consultation with East Porpoise Bay community, as we do many consultations, we go into those communities, is that part of the OCP update? Or will that just be a standalone consultation? Because once again, my concern is that jumping the queue? So it's just my question. Thanks, Sanath.
Right. if you feel you can answer it, go ahead. Otherwise, maybe Angela would speak to it.
Unfortunately, the report that we brought to the planning committee is not accompanying the report that you received. In that report, we outlined a number of ways that we wanted to proceed with looking at a local service area. And the first step is to start a community consultation process to let because there are 3 options, I believe, to approving a local service area. They are by referendum, by counter petition, and the third is, it was in the report, so I apologize for that, but we will certainly bring it back to council. What I'd like to point out is that we have been working on the West Porpoise Bay and West Sechelt areas to try to get all of the areas that have already been developed and that do not have potential to be further developed. We have been attempting to bring them all online very diligently over the past few years. We have the Wakefield Road. That area has limited amount of development, but there will be some properties there that will have development potential. There again, and also in Lookout Lane, Beacon Lane, those are already developed areas that don't have sewer. The other areas in West Sechelt, such as Bly Road, most of those properties do have development potential. So we're hoping that the development there will drive the connection to sewer and allow the easements and statutory rights-of-way to go down the hill to connect to the sewer line. So in this essence, Davis Bay and East Porpoise Bay are shown equally in the official community plan as the next sewer areas. So it isn't one over the other. It's just at this point with the existing pipes there, it's easier to connect a good portion of the East Porpoise Bay into that area. And Davis Bay is limited by its geography and the fact that we do not have an access to the water or an outfall that we can bring there. The expense of pumping back into the community from anything over the hill is going to be tremendous. And that's something that we've had to struggle with.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's thinking of Davis Bay. We're thinking of Selma Park, Havey's down, and connecting with the Sechelt Indian Band and their interest along that site. So, Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here. I don't think anybody is jumping the queue. I think why this was brought forward is substantially the infrastructure is in place for several hookups to take place in East Porpoise Bay. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe for a moment that will leapfrog hookups before those areas in West Sechelt and West Porpoise Bay are hooked up first, because we do in fact have a priority list in terms of the areas within West Porpoise Bay and West Sechelt that are already in the priority list. So East Porpoise Bay would be at the bottom of that list. That's my impression. And if we should have some infrastructure in the Selma Park, Sechelt Indian Band areas, that would probably be the next priority. So I don't think it's out of priority list. And we are not going to hook up, from my perspective, East Porpoise Bay before those other areas are in fact hooked up. So that's my impression in terms of why this is being brought forward.
Thank you for that. That's helpful. And Councillor Mueller.
Thank you, Worship. I would just like to ask a question through you to the Director of Development Services, just to reiterate the rationale regarding DCCs. And I'm just curious if perhaps I remembered that wrong, or if that was something that plays a part.
Well, we've commissioned Urban Systems to update the DCC bylaw overall.
And so the more information you have on areas to do, the better that work will be.
Yes.
Okay. So we understand and support that. So, Councillor Mueller.
Just to further, so once again, I'm just asking you to reiterate the rationale with regards to this report. This is meant to be as an extrapolation piece, or is it just to fill in some more blanks, or?
Fill in the blanks.
B. So that's B. Yeah.
Councillor Inkster.
Yeah, I mean in
so they can hear you.
Yeah, thanks. In reference to what Councillor Shanks said, there are We know on the upper side, not for very long though, maybe a block, a number of businesses that would be a user pay connection system, gravity fed. So it's just how we define the length of that particular line and how many hookups we do, because there are a number on the top. It's just how far we go. And the phasing in, as Councillor Sank just mentioned, may make sense in the fact the user pays for a number of hookups with businesses in an industrial area, industrial/business area that pays other more substantial taxes in order to hook up. And they're all job creators in that. I think it's 10 lots up there, so that's one that we should look at. And I don't think it's a very long extension to that point. I think Sinath knows it's 100 feet or something like that, or 200 feet. So, yeah.
The infrastructure already in place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the report, bringing it forward. Thank you to Council, and Councillor Segal will have the second last part of the discussion. Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. This is just a question through to staff. I noticed the date on the report initially was 2011. So was this in response to the biosolids plant that was going to be going over there? Is that where it kind of initiated from?
No, it's because of the ONI development. The ONI development, initially, they planned for on-site septic, it's a mini treatment plant. So it's before it was 41 lots? 41 lots? 35 lots? Yeah. The initial is 35 lots, yeah. And then they increased because of the district agreed to use that the force main. Actually, no, they proposed to pump the sewer to Dusty Road previously with the 2 pumps. That time, Lot L, with the district has no confirmation. The new treatment plant is Dusty Road, Lot L or peptide treatment plant. So that's why it's delayed from 2011, 2012, and then 2013 like that. Let's move forward.
Okay, thank you for all the clarifications, and I appreciate the fact that we have a lot of experience on council and ideas and memories and some sense of the priority. I'll go back to Councillor Wright's concerns about our asset management and infrastructure. We will develop clear, publicly supported priority lists on building out infrastructure, and we'll do that in an open, public way so that you can see what it is. And I will not support trains that happen to get out of the track because of self-interest or ad hoc decisions by previous councils. We'll make sure this is a publicly understood process and that the community needs are met with equity and fairness. End of story. Thank you.
I think we all agree.
Moving on, item 10.3, which is the one Mr. Hoy was here to speak to us about, I think? No. 10.2, development variance permit on the report of the IGA store signage report from the municipal planner. A motion to receive the report. Thank you, Councillor Lutz and Seegers. And on to a second topic. All those in favor? That's carried. Once again, we call on Ms. Lettman to guide us through, on this case, signs.
You have our recommendation, the staff recommendation before you. The 2 signs that were brought about, the shopping cart signs, it was the Advisory Planning Commission who recommended that the logo be removed and not approved since the overall number of signs was already exceeded. Each business is allowed only 2 signs and number of those signs. So it was felt that at the Advisory Planning Commission by the members that if it just said thank you for shopping or thank you for returning the cart, that would be sufficient. And over the doors at the pedestrian, the 2 entrances have signage right now that say Marketplace IGA, and it was felt that the look of that signage was very friendly to pedestrians, whereas the IGA is out there, and it was also mentioned that the other communities have asked for wood signage. and that they're replacing a wood, we believe it's a carved wood sign on the awning. And because that's car-oriented, vehicle-oriented, it was felt that that could be plexiglass, but down at the lower level for pedestrians entering the store, it was felt it should be more, as much as possible, more friendly wood, and it could be done in sandblasted wood. Thank you.
The second motion, I guess we can discuss it once it's on the floor. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Wright. Discussion of recommendation 2 and the various signs. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could I ask that they be dealt with individually, A, B, C, please?
Sure. Any discussion of A, main oval sign number 1? If there's no discussion, all those in favor? That's carried. B, 2 wall signs number 7 on the maps as proposed by Century Signs. Any discussion of those? All those in favor? That's carried. And item C, the directory sign as proposed by Century Signs and limited to the life of the existing supporting directory signage structure. It's made out of steel. It'll last as long as the one at South Coast Ford, which we'll get to. Any discussion of item C? All those in favor? That's carried. And, and item D, 2 wall signs, but in the material of carved wood with relief and painted for better pedestrian, and a number of people would like to speak to that. So we'll start with Councillor Wright and then Councillor Inkster.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. In light of the anticipated costs, to the owner of the IGA, I'm not going to vote in favor of this particular recommendation. I think it's his store, and he has a right to put up whatever type of sign that he chooses to put up there. To dictate that he has to put it up carved out of wood with relief and painted, that's not fair. Thank you very much.
And Councillor Inkster?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the wood's good. Wood's nice. We all know that. Many of us have a lot of us have nice wood homes.
Got a nice wood sign on your door.
Nice wood. I have a nice carved wooden sign on my door. Was done for free by a family member. Thank you very much. Sorry, was done for free by a family member. Thank you very much. Beautiful sign. But this, we've heard of the costs of this new rebranding from the owner of the store. They've given us figures that they, I think, are quite clear and honest about. What I was looking to do, as I put up my hand and reach for the top, Councillor Wright beat me to it, is that we just go with number D, 2 wall signs, number 10, and entrances, size, and lettering as designed. And don't include but in the rest of the recommendation. I like wood, and I think it was a good try, but it's pretty expensive.
That's an amendment suggested.
Yes.
And is there anyone to second that amendment? Councillor Wright.
Yeah.
Any discussion of the amendment, which is to drop everything after the word designed? Councillor Seegers and then Councillor Shanks on this one, or sure. Councillor Seegers on the amendment.
On the amendment, yes. As Mr. Hoy said, if we pass it as is, he just won't put the signs up. So it's actually cheaper for him if we leave it the way it is.
Yeah, if money is the issue, I don't think that Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, good point. You're right, absolutely. So it always seems that we come up against franchises. We faced it with Shoppers, we faced it with Rexall, now we're facing it with IGA. And I empathize with those people that have to put up signs that their franchises dictate that they have to put up. So if there was to be any relief sign whatsoever, I would have loved to have seen the huge marketplace sign up on top with relief, because I don't even think you see personally the ones as you're walking into the store.
And the street sign.
And the street sign, yeah. So I'll be supporting the amended item number D. So.
Any other discussion of the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment? And then going back to item D as it's signed, 2 wall signs, number 10, that was carried, by the way, size and lettering as designed. All those in favor? That's carried. And just for my own, so you know, my own opinion on this is I could care less about the cost that it may or may not be. And I think we should have a say on signs that are right in the public area. But this is so far from the sidewalks and the streets and the roads and so much of an integral part of almost inside the building that I don't think we should be. Government should learn where it intervenes and where it steps and where it doesn't step. And I think government is stepping a little too far on this one. I'd pace it off to tell you where the right spot is, but that's like a little too close. Item E, and that the shopping cart shelters in the parking lot have no new signs, but as an option, the applicant may remove the logo, Marketplace IGA, and retain the phrase, thank you. Again, pretty precise. It's moved, seconded by any amendments to this? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, you know, I think that one's stretching our government as well, but it's a fine line. Item 11 is reports from councillors. And I'll start on the left, if I may, Councillor Mueller, and a report on activities that we should know about.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've finished up regular council meetings just before winter break, so for Christmas I managed to stay close to home this year, reflect on my first year on council, and look ahead to the next 3 years, and just take a bit of time to reconsider what I think it is that success looks like for Sechelt, and also personally in my role as a councillor. Other than that, we had an intergovernmental meeting just the other night on Monday, I believe, and it was great to meet our new MP. We got a chance to chat informally about Paris COP21, and as well, she took a particular interest in my comments around West Coast fisheries and how excited West Coasters should be about new appointment of Minister Tutu and a new approach to fisheries management. I think that will have a big bearing on Sechelt in time. Other than that, the Regional Economic Development meeting, we had a great meeting just yesterday where we really got down to work to hash out the finalize everything that will be coming forward here, and we can look forward to packages coming to, I would assume it would be finance and culture and economic development on the outstanding governance issues and appointments for the first board. So
thank you very much for your report. And Councillor Lutz? So did somebody change this machine that I have here for controlling things? So now everyone can just put their own mic on and
talk away.
It's amazing. I've lost all sort of, I can't, all these red lights are going on and they're not waiting for me, so. We didn't
let the mayor know, though.
Councillor Lutz.
Thank you. I had the opportunity yesterday to do a tour of the wastewater Water Resource Center with our MLA, Nicholas Simons, and the opposition critic for health, Judy Darcy. She also had a public meeting yesterday around some of the health issues and listened to our community on those issues. So that was good to have her in our community. Also attended the intergovernmental and got to listen to Pam Goldsmith-Jones, and that was really a good meeting. We've had some budget workshop meetings and a few photo ops. My Christmas was pretty quiet. My youngest son was away and got engaged just prior to Christmas. So I'm going to have some busy time and fun time in this summer. Thanks.
And Councillor Shanks.
Well, January's been a very interesting month. Probably attended no more than six birthdays, for one thing, you know. And but the highlight probably in the last couple of weeks has been a couple of things. First of all, attending a library meeting with a library manager and the chairman of the library board, along with Councillor Seegers and myself, to finally set up the building committee, which will address the the needs and priorities of the library and the municipal office over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, we hope. So that's something that we've been waiting for some time, but now that committee will actually get formed. On last Friday the 15th, 4 of your ferry advisory committee members caught the 620 ferry for an 8:30 meeting with BC Ferry executives. We had some glitches, which we made comment about with respect to taking 2 individuals over who required wheelchairs. And 2 wheelchairs were not available when we got to the other side, and they had been requested on board the ferry. So we dealt with that situation. The first person to meet us at the meeting was the terminal manager, and we outlined our concerns about the fact that there was a lack of communication in providing those chairs for our 2 people that needed them. And then when the executives arrived, we made the same comment about, you need to communicate, and the communication needs to be that much better. Having said that, we've done 180 degrees somewhat from our October meeting with BC Ferries in terms of, sorry, those things will no longer be discussed. So our push this time was to remain positive, not to criticize them about selling a $15 million ferry for less than $2 million, but to move forward in terms of positive input. So in that regard, we were able to point out the effective cost savings in them canceling the Sunday sailings from Thanksgiving until Victoria Day weekend. It amounts to what we can contend is in the range of approximately $12,000 to $15,000. So our point was, can we just not eliminate this problem and come up with reinstituting the Sunday sailings during that period from Thanksgiving to Victoria Day weekend? And they said that they would look at that, and we are hopeful that in fact they will address that and it'll become a reality. The second thing is, as you know, the fixed link study is underway, and they expect that report probably in the next 6 or 7 months. But it's interesting that fixed link study has to be done in relationship to the potential projections of BC Ferries for their ferry service over the next 20-25 years. So that information will be invaluable, especially if they have that information presented to the public when the interlink study is completed in June or July. So we've had some encouragement there, and we're having ongoing meetings. And the only message I keep getting from the Ferry Advisory Committee is we know our limitations in dealing with the BC Ferry service, and if the economy is in question within our municipalities or the entire Sunshine Coast, it will need our governments, our 4 governments on the Sunshine Coast, to make representation to the province in terms of addressing that issue. BC Ferries has made it clear their mandate is to provide the ferry service, and that's what they're doing. They're not necessarily concerned about the impact that it happens on our communities. So we need to take that argument to the next level. And apart from that, interesting to meet our MP and our MLA at the intergovernment meeting, and that was probably the second best intergovernment meeting we've had in quite some time. So that's all I have to report, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report, and I'm glad to hear the Library Municipal Hall Building Committee is underway. Councillor Inkster.
Thank you. I think it's good that you're going to a lot of birthday parties, Councillor Shanks.
No, it's a bad sign, actually.
Oh, okay. I thought it was good, though. Birthday parties, that's good. And I hope at the Ferry Committee meeting, the discussion about the Paul River Ferry not working for, I think, a day or two was talked about.
It was.
Good, because we're all one coast, and Paul River was isolated from the south for a day or two. That's not good. Just wanted to mention a few things. Just before Christmas, no, maybe it was just after Christmas. Wow, it's been busy. Went to the East Porpoise Bay Association, and it was good to go. They always hand out. Yeah, it was after Christmas because they had Christmas snacks and coffee, and it's a good group, and they're very well informed. They asked standard questions that they've asked other council members, and I answered those questions, except for a couple that I'd said there were factual questions that I just indicated had already been asked and answered. And then I made sure that staff provided them with, I think, 3 answers to their questions to give them a connection, but also to give them clear answers from staff on some issues. I also then went to the Davis Bay Association and was introduced as their council liaison. And very quickly, it was a busy meeting because somebody had done a really good presentation on going to the Arctic. So it was really well done, multimedia, amazing computers nowadays for everyone to put this together. And so the one question I wanted to mention was just a side question about the stream erosion that's always coming up now in Davis Bay. They're having a biologist named Dave Bates coming to speak to them. I hope our staff who can go will go and listen to that. And I always get questions about the Ross Elliott property, I guess we'll call it east of the elementary school, and the riparian zone protection there, and how that's an opportunity, whether through zoning or whatever we can do with that particular piece of land. I actually went to because I was nearby, I went to the Goldsmith Jones office opening. It's a very small office though, so it was consequently that busy. Good for pictures with the amount of people there, so I guess you always have a smaller office and then you pack it, right? It looks really good. So I hope it works out having a Horseshoe Bay office, and I hope people in the Sunshine Coast don't feel like it's too difficult to get there or feel isolated, because we all know how that can be a Sunshine Coast or a coastal concern. Was part of the Selma Park drainage meeting, and we'll see how that moves forward with looking at solutions. We now have a new CAO that perhaps they can talk to about that and mention that to them and ask them some questions. The intergovernmental that was the other day was good in terms of lots of info. It's I sort of termed it, after we've gone to 2 of those, it's sort of like speed dating. How it was done with about 9 or 10 items very quickly. And I did the downtown Revite meeting last week. I would ask maybe through the mayor and the CEO if in fact the minutes could come, because I'm very active in that committee. I'm also Public Works Parks Chair. If those minutes could maybe come to Public Works Parks. Right now they go to planning because of the original, some people that were originally working on the committee were planners, but it would be neat because I sit at both tables to consider the minutes coming to Public Works and Parks first. So I just wanted to throw that to the both of you. And so it's been I probably missed a couple things. It's been a busy coming back. That's what happens after Christmas. You become very busy for many weeks. But I just wanted to end with kids say the darndest things Christmas message. I bought, because of the sweets that we all eat and give our kids over Christmas, I bought my kid an electric toothbrush with some good toothpaste and some mouthwash to go with it, the cavity mouthwash. And I said to him, how did you enjoy your mouthwash? Does it work for you? Is it really good? Is it tasty? And he said to me, Dad, I can't use it yet because on the side it says you need to confront your dentist first.
Confront your dentist first.
So I don't know when we'll have him confronting the dentist before he uses it. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. And Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended a budget meeting, the intergovernmental meeting, Seniors Planning Table Committee meeting. Went to the open meeting that the opposition critic for healthcare. That was an interesting meeting. Attended a board meeting at the SCRD, infrastructure committee meeting at the SCRD. Also went to the Davis Bay Community Association just as a resident. Finance committee, several closed council meetings, and I attended the police commission meeting at the SCRD. They have the ability now to bring a car up from town that they can park wherever they like, and it will register your license plate, and apparently it doesn't matter whether it's front or back, and within 2 seconds they know whether you've got insurance, whether you've got your license, or whether it's suspended, and they can stop you. And they bring this car up periodically from town. Kind of an interesting development in technology. And lastly, I went to the Transportation Committee at the SCRD. And just carrying on from Councillor Shank's comments, there was a 3-page handout. And I'll just read the first paragraph and I'll circulate this to councillors. And it says, the Ministry of Transport wishes to undertake a study to assess the costs and benefits of possible overland connections and bridge crossings between the Sunshine Coast and the provincial mainland as an option to existing air and ferry services. And it goes on. The RFP has already gone out. It's already back. They'll be making a decision on the consultant by the end of this month. And then they have a list on the last page of about 30, 35 different organizations and communities that they want to consult with between the end of January and sometime in June. So it's going to be an interesting time. I'll circulate this to all of council.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Seegers.
Thank you. As Councillor Shanks indicated, we had a library municipal joint meeting. I attended the Sunshine Coast Housing Committee meeting. It was the last committee meeting of the 3-year mandate. The society has now been set up, or the society has been set up that will be going forward. The request is that this meeting, or this group of people, because of the input that they have, still get together quarterly to provide some guidance and oversight. I attended the Downtown Revitalization Committee meeting. Library Board meeting. The AGM for the Library Board is coming up on February 20th at 10 a.m. at Rockwood Lodge. And this was the last meeting for Pat Harvey and Dan Fivehouse. In the library mandate, you can only do 8 years, and both have done 8 years on the Library Board. So they're both stepping back. So the library is looking for, they have had, I think, 3 new people come forward, but they're still looking for more people. If you know anybody in the community who's interested in being on the library board, have them come out to February 20th. I attended the intergovernmental meeting, and I have to say, with my time on council, others may have a different experience, but it's the first time that I've seen all of the governments, right? So all local government, school district, and provincial and federal all at one meeting. So that was really nice to have that, congenial kind of meeting. A number of us attended the all-staff meeting where our new CAO was introduced to staff, and we got to hear from the various departments about what's going on in their area. I always find that I learn a lot from those meetings, that they share with each other that we get bits and pieces sometimes, but we don't necessarily have all of the information that they get. So I really appreciate it when they share it with us. We had a budget workshop today, seniors planning table meeting as well. And it seems like it's been a long time since Christmas already. That's everything.
Thank you for that report. I was wondering, there was Christmas. I can remember the last District of Sechelt email came in at Christmas Eve at 5:35. And I didn't get another email until the 27th, and I thought that was pretty good. I didn't notice New Year's because there was actually events on New Year's Day, but we're back and it's busy. Councillor Alice Lutz, SCRD Board report.
At the SCRD, I've attended an infrastructure meeting where a lot of the work that was done there came forward later that day to the board. We had some discussion around a fuel tax, and a letter will be going to the Ministry of Transport for some information around that, how it impacts the local busing and the funding. And also we want to make it very clear our concerns around the loss of the Powell River bus through to Langdale ferries and what maybe can be done around that. It's quite isolating for that end of the peninsula. We also talked about bylaw increases for water rates, water management plans and education plans around water, an awful lot of planning going forward prior to our budgeting. We will be going into round one soon. We have a couple of workshops to prepare us for that. At the board meeting in the afternoon, there were some of the resolutions came forward from infrastructure and some notices on titles and also some bylaw readings. So it's been quite busy there also. The new committee chairs have been assigned, and I've been assigned as a vice chair, partly because we're rotating our councillors through the RD, and rather than have to change the chair every 6 months, this will, we're hoping, will work. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Moving on to items 12, information release. Can I have a motion to receive items 12.1 and 12.2, the November and December RCMP crime reports? Councillor Seegers, Councillor Wright, all those in favor. Any discussion of those two reports? Okay, that's for information. Moving on to item 12.3, which is release of items from closed council meetings. Recommendation that we receive the report and release the following information from into open meeting. Councillor Seegers and Councillor Shanks. Any comment from our corporate officer on our way to do this? All those in favor? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So that releases approximately 15, no more than that, almost 20 different things over the last while. And moving on to correspondence, we have two items of correspondence. One is the motion to receive correspondence. Councillor Seegers and Wright, all those in favor. Any discussion of either of those two items? We have the Vancouver Coastal Healthy Communities Forum invite for February 18th. If somebody would like to go to that, feel free. I'll be busy. And just Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, I think the second letter with respect to Ann Watson's request, I'll actually be meeting with her tomorrow over another matter. Good. So I can relay, where we're at with respect to that.
Good. And we don't want to forget about the importance of archives. In fact, they have been a group that's been waiting for a long, long, long time to have a permanent place in Sechelt. And motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Seegers, Councillor Lutz, all those in favor. And thank you for being patient. It's 20 to 9. Public question and answer about items of business that we address this evening, if we can. I see Pam. Yes.
I know you said I don't know how many times you said it's not going out that way.
Yep.
Many meetings, it's always ending at Dusty Road, and I keep wondering why does this keep coming back to us? There's other places ahead of us, or ahead of East Fork State, and it just keeps coming back like a bad smell. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, let that be an end to it. It just keeps reading.
Well, one reason it keeps coming back is because it's getting into the public realm and open light and sunlight, so we can all see exactly what studies were done. You can see when they were commissioned. You can see who was involved in them and why, and we can draw our conclusions for community consultation as we go forward on that. So that's one reason this is coming back, and one reason I was asking for some background on it, so we could always have a sense of what happened there and the intricacies. But I think we need to continue to raise the infrastructure issues around sewage into the public. Obviously, we've been all a bit gun shy after the wastewater facility. That's going to have to just disappear, and we're going to have to deal with what's in front of us, which is long-standing needs for hookup and long-standing commitments in the OCP and others. So it's part of the deleveraging and pushing the ship of state back into where the community is guiding it.
Then why, when I ever asked about it, was I told it's not going past Dusty Road? Oh no way, that's as far as it's going.
Well, it hasn't gone past yet.
Not anywhere yet.
I know.
They're saying, oh, Marmot Road. And gee, what's right after Marmot Road?
Yeah, we're pretty aware of that.
Preliminary plan.
Yes, sir.
I have 3 questions that are related.
Go ahead.
A couple of them should be pretty quick.
And
Everybody can hear me over there?
And we'll try and give you 3 related answers.
My question is there a policy at City Hall whereby staff have been instructed to open sealed communications addressed specifically to members of council? That should be a pretty easy question.
I don't think there's a policy, but there probably should be. And it should be in favor of ensuring that anything that comes in as district business is in fact official and district business. I know when I worked with the feds, wouldn't matter what it was. In fact, if it was marked confidential, it was probably opened quicker.
Did it get to you?
Oh, well, it'll always get to us. It'll always get to us.
So right now there is no policy.
No, no.
Presumably, if I send a sealed letter to any one of you people, you should receive it in a sealed condition.
I'm just saying there's no policy. So, in fact, we may not know how it, but we'll get it, and it may or may not be sealed.
Okay, so who could get back to me to confirm whether or not this is actually occurring, if there is no policy?
Any councillor that receives information that they thought was inappropriately opened when they got to it, I guess would let you know. I don't know.
Yeah. So question 2. Recently, I emailed communications sent separately to each member of council, and they have never been acknowledged nor responded to. So can your council members and mayor inform me how exactly can I reach them if I wish to communicate?
You can always reach us. The issue is you cannot speak to us about issues that are involved in a public hearing once that public hearing is closed. And so attempting to communicate on issues of a subdivision or a rezoning after the date will in fact be rechanneled until after the public hearing. In a couple of those cases, I read all of the information on the way to giving it to the corporate officers and others so that they would know that in fact it wasn't to be distributed and shared with council. So you should usually receive an acknowledgement that the material has come in. If it was sent to me individually, like Bruce Milne or Darren Inkster, in my case it may not. I read them all, but I don't always respond.
So I have no idea then if you ever receive my email.
That's right. And if it's on material that you shouldn't be communicating with me, that's a good...
Back to my question then is how exactly can I be ensured that if I need to contact you, I will be able to contact you? If my email goes unacknowledged, I have no idea whether you received it. So how do I know that I've been able to contact you? See my dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps.
So let me lead into the third and final question.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking maybe to save everybody some time here, maybe I should make an appointment with the new CAO, and I believe he's in charge of administration now, and go over all the details that I'm speaking to that I can't get into here because I don't want to bore everybody to death. So my third question is, there's a slight preamble here because you're going to have to correct me or acknowledge that I'm not correct. My understanding of the roles of mayor and councillors is that they are the board of directors for the district of Sechelt, and that Sechelt staff receive their direction from council to work on behalf of the taxpayers of Sechelt. So is this my understanding? Is this a correct understanding?
It sounds pretty good so far.
Okay.
I never use the board of directors, but that's okay.
That's my understanding. So you said you confirm that. Then my personal experience with staff at City Hall is that they are gatekeeping. They're gatekeeping information between the public, such as myself, and my elected representatives on Sechelt Council. Now, you and I had a meeting last year with one of my other neighbors, and I briefly touched upon the fact that you had received information, a letter that I specifically sent to you in a sealed envelope marked private and confidential. And you asked me for some details, and you were going to go back and investigate. Never heard anything back about that either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, those are my questions. I haven't got any specific answers from anybody here, but again, how can I get a hold of you if I want to get a hold of you? I look at the phone book. The only person I see who I can identify with a personal phone listing is Councillor Inkster.
Oh, you're kidding.
None of you I can find for sure that they're actually listed in the phone book under their own name. So if I can't get you through City Hall, I can't get you through emails, and I can't get you out of the phone book, other than coming here like I am tonight and asking you my questions in a public forum, that's the only way I seem to be able to get a hold of you. It's a problem.
It sounds like a problem. And I can only say that I'm sure that every email you sent, it gets through. But if you don't get a response, we'll have to think through why you're not getting a response. So that's an issue.
My suggestion that I meet with the new CAO and bring all my documentation and details and discuss it with him, would that be a good plan?
I think we need to deal with correspondence. I think some of the councillors would like to know what they're missing as well. So if you could give your name, maybe they could look through their email accounts and check that out.
My name is Sid DeVries.
Yeah.
I know you have my phone number.
Yeah.
I am listed in the phone book.
Yeah. I'm not.
So, I would appreciate having some honest communication with my elected representatives somehow. That's my question.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And yeah, the answer to the meeting with the CAO makes sense, but give them a couple of weeks.
Okay.
You know, and I'll probably be there. It's okay. First here, and then we'll move over. Yes.
I have a couple of questions regarding Bailey Road.
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to know these particular lots. There is apparently going to be a internal cul-de-sac. Is that going to be wide enough for these people to be able to park their vehicles on that cul-de-sac? If it is not, where are they going to park? Bailey was never built to have people parking on the road, particularly.
Yeah.
Quite often when I drive up Bailey, if somebody is visiting and parked on the road, they're half on the sidewalk and half on the road.
Because it's too narrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I have a comment to make, just so that all the councillors are aware, that trailer that was parked on the property that Angela Lepman referred to my knowledge, was removed yesterday.
Okay.
It's been there.
Yeah,
Ever
I know.
since it was first brought up, it was asked to be removed. It's not been removed until yesterday, and that was just before the council meeting. Surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't wasn't related.
I wondered if there was going to be guest parking in this area for guests that are coming, because they probably won't be able to park on the individual little cul-de-sac.
We don't have answers to those yet. We'll have to see what the development plan is, but we're making notes. Notes are being made by staff, and it'll be a consideration. And I know from the Cascade Heights area that parking on small lot subdivisions can be an issue, so we understand that. And
sometimes I have trouble getting through there.
okay.
So it's what's going to happen on Bailey. Same thing, people park on that little cul-de-sac rather than